I was born Jasper Melinda Delgadillo to Oscar Delgadillo and Mary Elizabeth Gresham. And when I entered the earthly plane, I was born into the land of the Cacapa. They existed in a region that's now known as Arizona. My paternal grandparents are first-generation immigrants, and their parents brought them over from Mexico. My maternal grandmother, she's an immigrant from Germany. She moved to America in her 30s. And my maternal grandfather is just a good old Southern boy, Oklahoma, Georgia. So I was born into this family of immigrants and Mexican and German American. And then my mother, when I was around 2, she moved us to the land of the Muskegee, which is also known as Georgia. When I say, what are the lands that raised me, I think of loblolly pines and creek beds and the Flint River. Think of dirt roads and wildflowers, muscadines and scupplands and mulberries. I literally had the Garden of Eden where I grew up. I could eat all summer and never have to go home. There was food everywhere. I grew up in a double-wide trailer in the middle of the country, and because of that, I was always very, very aware of the vulnerability of my home. I grew up in a way that would be considered poor, but also rich and abundant in that I had the land at my disposal. I looked to the land as a place of peace and refuge. My family life, it had a lot of suffering there. There was a lot of grief in my family life. There was a lot of sadness, actually. The only way I knew to feel better was to go to the woods. When I think about introducing who I am, it's so important for me to recognize my beginning. My name changed many times throughout my life. So I was adopted by an Elliott, who is my father now, and became Jasper Melinda Elliott. And then I got married and became a Wolf so that I could share that name with my child. But those names, each one of them, they're about other people and their need of me or for me. It's been quite a few years now, but I went through a divorce and I had the option to stay with Wolf or release Wolf, and I decided to keep it so that I could share a name with my daughter. But it came to me that my name, it didn't really tell the whole story of who I was. I went to the forest and I just asked. For me, it was just about taking my power back and becoming. It took me about 1.5 years, and I asked Gaia for some reflections on who I am and who I'm becoming in service to this planet. MoonTree came through. The moon itself, it's been with me through every single period of my life. I've stepped outside so many times to look to the moon, to ask questions, to reevaluate, where am I right now and where was I the last time I stood in your glow. It's always the moon, but we see it as having phases. I think humans are that way, that we are always here in our essence, but the way that we shine, the way that we affect others, the way that we interact with our environment is always changing. Trees have also been there for me since the beginning, and I've had some pretty deep relationships with specific trees. The more time you spend with one tree, the more you start to see how the seasons affect that tree. You see what comes, you see what goes. When I look at these trees that are all around us right now, I know that they are a community. I've learned how they share their nutrients with other trees in their colony. I've learned about how there's a mother tree that feeds the trees around, and when that mother tree dies, it sends all of its nutrients to one other tree who now becomes the mother tree. But also, they are resilient. The wind blows, and that's what allows them to grow tall. They break and they find new ways to grow. Sometimes one tree holds another tree when it falls in the forest, and that tree falls, but it continues to grow with the support. I want to be like the trees. I want to stand strong and rooted in my community. I want to be able to help those around me. I want to continuously grow toward the light of consciousness. I want to evolve, and when I break or bend, I just want to find a new direction. That's how I stepped fully into Jasper MoonTree. And by naming myself that and then offering these tools to my friends, my community, and to my world, I'm basically inviting you to align yourself with your name. I think it's important to talk about the labels or the identifiers that I claim. I would be doing myself and you a disservice if I didn't at least speak to some of the labels that have defined me in the past. And one of the big ones that actually started me on this whole path of helping others was acknowledging and understanding my addiction. I call myself a recovered alcoholic. I was raised by an alcoholic, and I have people I love very dearly right now that are alcoholics. I say that because I want you to know that I have no judgment for addiction. I understand it. It's a spiritual crisis. I'm 11 years sober now. I am very proud of that accomplishment. There was a time when I couldn't have imagined it. Through that process of addiction, I became very codependent in my relationships. I'm still doing the work now. I'm in recovery for codependence. I thought it was the alcohol, that you let go of that and you peel back the layer, and actually there's some really deep lack of self-worth that you've got to deal with that led you there in the first place, you know, and then you peel back that and you say, okay, I'm worthy, and then you have to say, well, what are these patterns that I'm so deeply ingrained in that I can't even see them, that are causing me so much pain? And for me, codependency was one of those patterns. So one of the other labels is that I'm queer. It's really important for me to say that. It's really powerful for me to say that. It is a big part of who I am. I actually did not realize I was queer till I was 19. It was the 80s and the 90s, and I lived in a really small town in rural Georgia. It was hard. It wasn't accepted, and I lost friendships over it, and there were places that I felt excluded. It just didn't seem like an option. If you wanted to live a happy life and be in love with someone, until I became a teenager, 19, and I started meeting other people outside of that small town. And suddenly I realized that I was much more complex than I had at once known, and that I had the ability to love beyond gender. I still ended up marrying a man, and I had a child, and that's another role I play. I'm a mother. I am divorced from that, and I'm experiencing for the first time my daughter leaving the nest, and she's away at school, and so I'm in this other label of like the empty nester. The labels, they serve a purpose, because by telling you what they are, you get a better understanding of where I've come from and who I am and what maybe some of my ideals would be. And I think that's important for you to know if you want to work with me. I really want you to understand that I'm just a human like you, like living this same journey called life. Because of all that I've experienced on the planet in my short time here, and because I have found ways through some of the darkest times in my life with the help of other humans along the way, as well as Gaia, I want to be of service to other people in that same way. Now that I've told you about the labels, I would love it if we could just decide to drop the labels. It does inform us, but it doesn't really tell the story. The essence of who we are can't be truly verbalized. It can only be felt. The work that I'm doing now to help other people on their healing journey, it can be boiled down to one thing, and that is deep presence. When we come into deep presence, whether it's through receiving body work or practicing yoga or learning how to breathe in ways that nourish us, whether it's being guided through nature in a powerful, immersive way, it all has to start with presence. Without the labels, we are present beings having this experience. I think that's really my deepest calling, is just to spend time with other humans in this intentional way and just be a helper in whatever way I can in their healing journey.